Say these two sentences out loud. Did you say, "What is it for?" and "It is for that one"? Or did you say it fluently and with reductions and linking? That would sound more like, "What's it for?" and "It's for that one." It's for that one. So let's look at what's the difference between saying each word, pronouncing them correctly and clearly, excuse me, and how it sounds when we're linking and reduce. In English and in other languages as well, we don't speak word by word. We link words together and we reduce sounds. This is because of the rhythm of English. It's a stress-timed language, so we have words that are stressed and stretched that are key, and the other words get linked and reduced. So typically, rather than "what is it for," we would contract "what" and "is" just to "what's." And if I'm not stressing on the word "what," I have a very reduced vowel. It's a schwa even when I'm saying "what" as a clear vowel. But when I'm contracting it here, what's it for? For is going to be our clear word in this case. What's it for? It's going to sound like a short little "what's it?" What's it? What's it for? So my "for" is going to be long and clear, and it's going to have that stressed clear "or." My "what is it?" becomes "what's it?" and even more reduced to just "what's it?" What's it for? That's because in this case, often "for" is not going to be a stressed or important word, but in this case, it carries the meaning. Something is for something, so it's gets extra meaning there. So that's going to be my stressed word, and then all of these three syllables, or these two syllables, what's it for, are going to be shorter or the same length as the word for. What's it for? And then in this case, "for" goes back to being reduced and less important because it's for that one. That is going to be our stressed word because, again, that is often not an important word. It's in itself can get reduced. But in this particular phrase, we're highlighting that one versus the other one. So that is going to get the stress. So again, we'll contract "it" and "is" to just "it's." And then our "for" can get reduced. It's not stressed in this phrase, so it's unimportant. So it becomes more of a "fur," with, instead of having the "or," clear "or" diphthong like I did here where it was stressed, what's it for? Here it just had "it's for." It's for. So it's for that one. Notice when I say the word "that," I'm not using, in this context, I'm not using "that" with an aspirated T at the end. Because the word "one" starts with a "w" sound, which is a consonant sound, even though it has a vowel letter, how we link depends on sounds. So when the T sound, the T sound is followed by a consonant, it's going to be unreleased T, so that one. So I'm not going to let my T out, not that one with a break. That would break it. To link it, I don't leave that T out, and then I just release right into the W. That one, that one. It's for that one. It's for that one. So short, short, long, short. What's it for? It's for that one. If we were looking at an example of that being unstressed, if I went on to say that one is mine, for example, here the important word is mine, and that one and "is" are less important. That one is mine. This "a" vowel in "that" might become a little more of a schwa, like that one. Or especially if I'm saying something like, "I like that one, I like that." I like that when it, then that is an additional word that gets reduced. So the theme for today in today's class is talking about words which get reduced and how words can be used clearly when they're stressed and have a changed pronunciation when they're linked and reduced. So we had a few examples here. We had "that" and "for." We had "is" becoming the contraction to just this sound. And that was it so far. in this context. So let's look at a few more words that have a clear pronunciation and a reduced pronunciation. You can get more help for this in my reduced sounds and linking playlist on the channel, and also in our Real Talk course on speechmodification.com. We focus on the reduced sounds and how we link and reduce, how speech sounds different when we're not speaking word by word. Of course, it is also a question and answer class today, so feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time if you're watching live. You can leave questions in the comments if you're watching this later on as a replay. So let's look at a few other words that get reduced. So we had for, which typically, if it's in its full form, sounds like four, which is the same as the number 4, or this word for as in foreground. But most of the time, for is not an important phrase. So what's it for? That was a good example of when it's stressed. It's for is that when it's reduced. So when for, this is the clear stressed version, and the reduced version sounds like fur. So my or diphthong becomes just an a single sound. Same as we write this word fur, or like the tree, fir. I tend to use fer because I tend to use er just for that sound, but there's no sliding here, just a single American sound. So to practice that, I would visualize it, whichever way is easiest for you, ir, and then fill in the blank. So for example, and I would start with saying the word in the blank. That's going to be the clear stressed word. For example, you could use names here. Mary, it's for Mary. Doug, it's for Doug. Paige, it's for Paige. Dick, it's for Dick. You can also use pronouns here. It's for you, it's for him, it's for them, it's for me, it's for us. Notice how I'm really stretching on the stressed word, and then it's for is almost like it's 2 syllables, but it's very reduced. It's almost like one short little syllable at the beginning. Other words with the or, for example, we have, just like we had for becomes fur, your tends to become your. So the full form of your has the or diphthong again. It's the same as the contraction your is also pronounced this way. I think you can think of the full form as your. So if I'm stressing on it, it's your turn. No, I think that's yours. You're the one who's going to go. Then we have the full or. But the reduced form is more of a your. Again, the or becomes You can think of it this way. And same idea. It's your house, it's your car, it's your job. Practicing and repeating in contexts where the your gets reduced to your can be very helpful and natural. So I have some short videos for that, as well as some longer explanatory videos for you to practice. A great way to practice this as well is to use my podcast here on the channel, where you can be listening and repeating. So those are typically videos that are meant to be listened to and shadowed. You can take them out on the go, practice and repeat, so that some of these differences between how the word looks and how it sounds when it's stressed versus how it's used when it's reduced become easier and more natural for you. So I'm building a large repertoire for you of this kind of practice. The reason to take this on is that it changes the meaning as well. So if I'm saying, it's your job, that's just the natural, normal way of saying it. Job is the important word. If I say that with a full, clear it's your job, it automatically sounds a little bit like I'm stressing on that, which sounds to me like someone saying it's your job rather than it's your job. So it's your job. There's no change to the meaning. That's just straightforward. But if I'm saying it's your job, it's automatically sounding like a little bit of a no, it's your job, like I'm stressing it. So it can sound a little bit argumentative, or it's overly highlighting the word your. again, you'll be understood and it's clear, but you might be sending an unintentional message with this. It's for you. It's your job, as opposed to it's your job, it's for you. The natural, fluent way native speakers will use these words. So this is true for lots and lots of words we have reductions. I'll be covering those in upcoming Saturday classes as well. And you can, as I said, check that out in our Real Talk playlist and our Real Talk course on speechmodification.com. I hope that helps you understand some of the differences, how rhythm affects our pronunciation, and I'll turn to your questions next. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see so many of you here this Saturday morning. We have a question about how to pronounce flip-flop. So for flip-flop, we have our main stress on flip. Flop also has a clear vowel. It's not reduced. So the I vowel here in flip and the ah vowel for letter A. So that's the IPA, flip, flop, main stress. I wouldn't change any spelling except for maybe for flop. If it's helpful for you to see the ah pronunciation, you just say it as flip-flop, flip-flop. So this is a shoe as well as a verb. He is always flip-flopping about his opinion, changing back and forth. Thank you. Nice to see you here again this morning. Welcome back to the channel. We have a question about the words loot, boot, and food, and whether they have the same sound. So yes, they do. All of these words follow the typical spelling convention of letters OO saying the oo sound. We do have some exceptions where the letters say the sound. So that would be like foot and stood and book. You can check out my video on my Pronounce English Speech channel that just came out yesterday. For the vowel, I talk about which words have the OO spelling with the lax sound. We usually also spell this with letter U. So for example, these two have the same vowel. Put your foot. I should have stood, same vowel. It's a put the book, same vowel. So these are exceptions, but they can be confusing. Most of the time, the majority of the time when you have two O's, you're going to have the oo vowel. I call that the new shoe vowel. So for all of these loot, boot, food, the oo vowel is tense. My lips are very pursed. My tongue is high. The vowel, the tongue's a little lower. There is lip rounding, but it's not as pursed as for oo. And the tongue is lower for foot. So foot versus food. So all three of these have the oo, same vowel. Thank you. That's a good question. And that OO spelling can tend to be confusing. So check that out on our Pronounce English video that came out yesterday, as well as in our Sounds of English course. I go through all of the different vowels, how they're spelled, what common words they're in, and accent error patterns to watch out for. So you can get that Sounds of English course on our website, speechmodification.com. Okay, wonderful. We have a question about how to pronounce happy birthday. So I do have a video for this, which I can direct you to after class. But let's break it down for you. We'll break down how to pronounce happy birthday. So first of all, I think looking at the stress for this can be helpful. We have first syllable stress in happy and first syllable stress in birthday. Overall, our main stress is going to be on the birthday. So it's going to be kind of short, short, long, short. Happy birthday, happy birthday. And our IPA for happy, we have the a vowel, like in cat or that. Letter Y says the tense E sound. And then for birthday, this is a little bit challenging because of the birth, the and th sounds together. That's where most people tend to have trouble. So we'll have happy birth, birthday. We still have a clear A there. So I wouldn't really change how you spell this too much. You can think about it like happy birthday. Yeah, there's not too much I can do spelling wise that will help you with this, but basically focusing for pronunciation on getting this and th combination. Basically, I just need to make sure that I'm not letting that become too soft. I'll hear it more as birthday or birthday, where people have a difficulty getting the tongue out for the th or back for the r. For that, I just recommend starting with the sound in birth, and then you can add your b, burr. When I do the b for the burr, my tongue is already ready for the r. It's already back and tight, burr. Then when I have to go forward for that th, I may cheat a little bit, earth. My tongue might not come quite as far out between my teeth. If I'm just saying think, I can stick the tongue way out, get a lot of air there. When I'm doing earth or birth, birth, I do need to have that constriction that happens between the tongue and the teeth for that sound to sound, but I'm just keeping the back of my tongue more in that position, earth, and just relaxing a little bit into the th. So when you start with the that helps you avoid birthday. When you start with the build to the burr, it helps you avoid losing that r. And then to get the th sound, just make sure that you're not pushing against the teeth or behind the teeth like burt or birthday. It's also hard sometimes for people to transition from the th to the d, birthday. That cheat is that if I just say day, my tongue can go behind my teeth, build up pressure, duh. When I do birthday, I might pull the tongue in and do the D in the normal place, or I might just close for the D further back on my tongue, birthday, so my tongue is still in the TH position, the tip of the tongue, as I do the D sound. You can get help for transitioning in and out of the TH sound in my video for linking TH. That should be helpful with this phrase as well. So that was pretty technical explanation, but I feel like this is something that we all say quite a bit, and birthday is not easy to say. Happy birthday is also not easy. Then next you can work on your singing for the song of Happy Birthday. I won't be teaching that today. That'll be a different channel. Okay, thanks so much for that question. I hope that's helpful for you, and I'll turn to the next questions. Yes, so you're mentioning having difficulty linking the R to the TH. Yeah, so just work on earth, birth. There's basically, you just kind of want to be able to slide forward from that tight R position. I hope that helped you. Okay, we have a question about the word obstreperous. So my guess is that the stress would be on the strep syllable. Let me see if that word is in my dictionary, obstreperous. I'm not familiar with the word. I've never seen it before. So I always like referring to Merriam-Webster or another dictionary, even as someone who spends a lot of time focusing on pronunciation. I use a lot of tools. Okay. Yeah, so it is stressed on the second syllable, strep, obstreperous. And it means to clamor against. That's where it comes from the French, to clamor against. And it means marked by unruly or aggressive noisiness. Or stubbornly resistant to control. Unruly. Excellent word. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Obstreperous. Second syllable stress. Okay. Yes, and then we had a question about OO. We also have words like door and pour. Some people say this as oor. I say door and pour both with the or sound. For OO, we also have flood and blood. These are less frequently used. So there are a few places where the O can say something else. Basically, if there's vowels before an R, it's going to be an R diphthong rather than an oo sound. And flood and blood are just exceptions to that rule of oo usually saying the oo sound. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Okay. I do here also have a video for letters oo and the different things they can say to help you know which words have which sounds. Okay. Question about a rule for those. Yeah, for those, it's just about the R changing what the oo says. Okay, and then we have a question about the word salmon. So in English, the L is silent in salmon. That's the most important thing to know. The letter A says the A sound, like sat or sad. And then the letter O says the schwa, the sound. We have first syllable stress. So you can think of it as being salmon, or even salmon. You really don't want much vowel in that second syllable. So for the word salmon, just think about the words like sat or sad. It was sad that we couldn't have salmon. Yeah, that's the American English pronunciation for salmon. Thank you for that question. Okay. We have a question or a comment about tongue gets stuck as moving from one sound to another. Any tips to improve? Focus too much on each vowel or consonant. Yeah, so transitioning between sounds, saying them accurately, I would say we do need to focus on certain sounds that are more challenging. So if you have difficulty with a certain vowel, the R, the TH, just like we were talking about in birthday, it is difficult to move from sound to sound and within and between words. So for the sounds that you find difficult, you can really build up not just practicing those sounds, focusing on the word. So for example, if I have difficulty with the R, it's helpful to practice rain and read and read, focusing on things that start with that R, but then try to go quickly to linking words before and after it and thinking about, for example, in the rain, that you're not lingering too long. So you want to get the accurate placement for R. If that's difficult for you, rather than in the rain, really slowing down and having difficulty there, try to slow the whole thing down in the rain, and feel how that those sounds connect together. And then over time, you should be able to speed up and feel more natural moving from sound to sound. I also recommend, again, if it's difficult sounds, practice them in nonsense words, in between sounds. So for example, for the R, I might say uru, iri, ara, and then switch it around. Ira, ore, ira. That way my R is really going to be connecting in between multiple sounds, because we don't really ever pause and break and set up for each sound. You may need to do that initially when you're trying to get a new sound that's difficult for you, but as we saw at the beginning of class today, we really connect and link between words and across words, and we need to be able to move from sound to sound. Another thing that you might find helpful is really trying to master the sound of schwa, the sound, and realizing that that's kind of our home base for speech, and that a lot of our movements are fairly small within our mouth, and that we're kind of staying in that position as we connect between things. So if I'm saying, I don't say I am going to go to the store. I'm gonna go to the store. Gonna go to the. So if you hear gonna go to the, there's a lot of schwas that connect sounds. So if you get more comfortable being relaxed in this position, working on sounds by themselves and in words, and then when you're working on connected speech, try to do a little less effort. Try to have more of a connecting flow of an tongue position and sound as you connect between. I talk about that in a couple of videos about placement, and in our American Accent 6-week course, we go through some of those techniques to help you with that. That's a good observation you have, though, and it can be difficult. We're trying to think about pronouncing things correctly, but we also want to sound smooth and natural and not have so much effort or be slowed down by trying to get all of the sounds correct. Okay, very good. We have a question about the word depends. Is the second D silent? Are there other words where this D is silent? So that depends. Yes, so that's a good example of what's called the rule of 3. We have 3 consonants in a row here. Depends, depends. So because if I had to do that D there, depends, it would be hard. If I just have 2, like if I have codes, that's just a D and a Z, then I can say both of them. When I have to do nd, z, the placement of that just automatically makes us lose that D. Depends. I don't want a long N there, though. I don't want depends. That would sound more like the word pens with an N and a Z. So I go maybe a little bit shorter on that N because the D is there. So anytime, not any single time, but many times when you have 3 consonant sounds in a row, we aren't saying the middle consonant. So anything with NDS would be the same, like spends, ends, ponds. That's a good example. And then I would say other consonant clusters like NTS, like dents. The difference between dents or tense, dense. This sounds the same as dense. So we just have the NS sounds. This sounds the same as tense. So that's a good example. I do have a couple videos talking about the rule of 3 and some specific words, but that's the general gist of it, that in these kinds of contexts, we're not saying all the sounds. I think it's often when there's, these are both examples with the N. So I'll think about some other ways to teach that. That would be a good video to look for all of the words and patterns that follow the rule of 3, so that you know where you do need to and where you don't need to put in all of those consonant sounds at the ends of words. Great question, and nice to see you here on Dead Heart. Okay, we have a question about glottal, native speakers using a glottal stop before a vowel sound or a sentence starting a word, and why. If a sentence starts with a vowel, so if I'm saying in the streets, I have I'm not sure that this is consistently a glottal stop. I think a glottal stop is a way to make a break before a vowel sound if we need one. But in a lot of cases, if I say I'm in the, I'm not going to make a glottal before that one. I'm just going to link my consonant sound, I'm in the. If I have an example of 2 vowels in a row where I need to separate them, then I might use the glottal stop. So for example, every evening, we have the same vowel here. We have every evening. Every evening. If I run them together, then it may sound like the last syllable of every and the first syllable of evening get merged. Every evening. That can happen, but that would be one place where I would put in that glottal stop if I wanted to be distinctly clear that there's 2 words there. Every evening, instead of every evening. So that's, I think, where that happens. If I'm going from a vowel to a vowel and I don't want to link, In other cases, we will link. I see it. I see it. There we actually add in a sound, or we just naturally have a gliding sound, see it. If I wanted to make it distinctive, see it, that's where I need a glottal stop. Often we don't, we link those, but there's some cases where the words it might be hard to hear that it's two words, and we lose a syllable if we don't put a glottal stop in to break up those vowel sounds. So yeah, thinking it through, I would say that would be the main reason you might hear glottal stops before vowels in American English. Okay, great question. Thank you for that. Let's turn to some additional questions. We have a question about architectural. I'm assuming that's your word, architectural. You're writing kind of architectural. So if I'm getting this wrong, let me know. But I think you meant architectural. So a little bit tricky because we have the CH saying the K sound. It does this in certain words. Rather than the ch sound here, it says the k sound. So we have arc, stresses on tech, so we have the TU saying the CH sound here. So this CH doesn't say ch, but this TU does say ch. And then we have ul. Yeah, so a lot of R's and L's together in this. That's some of the challenge. So let's break down how to pronounce architectural. We have third syllable stress. Letters E there says the sound, like in the word tech, T-E-C-H, but I'm going to write it with T-E-C-K. And then letters AR do say R here. CH say the k sound. Letter I says the unstressed I sound. Architect. Letter TU says the CH sound. Texture. And the we just have a regular sound there. And then Earl. So just a kind of a schwa before our L there at the end. What I'd suggest for this one, two suggestions. First, start on the stress syllable and build from that. It sounds like textural, architectural. Second is to just say it slowly, syllable by syllable, and then speed up. Just make sure that you're keeping the tech syllable long and stressed and the other syllables shorter. That would sound like architectural. Also practice it in some short phrases, because a lot of times we can master a word, then we go to use it in a phrase or a sentence or in conversation, and we still struggle on that word or say it with our old incorrect pronunciation. So the architectural plans won't be ready until next week. They really have an architectural focus in that class. Yeah, thank you for that word. Definitely a tough one. I hope that breakdown helped you pronounce it more easily. Okay, if you've asked multiple questions, I will try to come back to your second and third questions, but I want to try to answer something from everyone this morning. So I see that you have other questions there. Stay with me and I'll get to those eventually. We have a question about whether or not Americans will link in multiple attempts. Yes, so I think we would link there. Multiple attempts. Although if we didn't want to link, this would be an example of where we would use that glottal before the attempts, multiple attempts. So if I want to be very clear, I may be making a small break, multiple attempts. But I think in most cases we can link the L. So then it would just sound like multiple attempts. Here's a good example on Dead Heart of the the rule of three. We don't really say tempts. We just say attempts. So multiple attempts. Yeah, multiple attempts. I made multiple attempts to explain that, and I hope at least one of them made sense to you guys. Okay, thank you. That's a good question. We have a question about speaking fluently. Yeah, that is definitely challenging, and just the more you practice speaking, trying to describe, to retell, to speak your thoughts out loud, to think in words and sentences in English, all of those things will help with fluency. It is a long journey, but if you keep working on it and practicing, if you think about, there's a lot of different things that have to happen between having a thought and expressing it fluently. So the more you practice all of those different steps, the thinking, the composing, the grammar, the pronunciation, the fluent connected speech, the easier it will become. And use my videos for fluent speaking as well, so that you can see the difference between written words and spoken speech, because often it is also about where can we relax a little bit, where can sounds drop, and how do they connect to make fluent speaking more easy. We don't decide as native speakers, oh, let's not say the T in attempts, the second T. We just do that because it's more efficient and easier for fluent speech. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a question about how to pronounce mountains like American. Yeah, so I do have a video for that here on the channel as well. But let's break down how to pronounce mountain or mountains. So in the American accent, the challenge here is that we don't really say the T. So it's okay. You'll be understood if you say mountains with a T. When we have, excuse me, words with NT in the middle in American English, for example, interview, we do one of two things. We either say the T like we do at the start of words with a burst of air, like take, or in this case, tens, or we drop the T and we just say the N sound. So rather than interview, we would say interview. In mountains, this doesn't follow that same rule, because this N is what's called a syllabic N. So when the NT is followed by another N, what we do instead is we don't let that T out, mount. So I just stop it. I stop the air. Notice how in interview, if I change that to inner, I just keep that N inner. It's nice and long, inner. In mountain, that N gets cut very short, mount. So you can think about it like we have the ow sound and a short N, mount. And then instead of in tens, we're going to have a clear tens, mountains or mountains. This vowel is really kind of a schwa sound, mountains. But what we tend to do here is drop the vowel and just do the n sound as our only sound in the syllable. So we go from a short N to another N, mountains. So this one is a stressed syllable. There's a break here, and then we start a new syllable with the syllabic N, mountains. It's okay to say mountains. We also do that some of the time, but this is probably what you're noticing native speakers do, mountains. Yeah, I hope that helps you. It's definitely a tricky word. We also do that combination with NT and another N, or just T, stop T and N in words like cotton or button or gotten. Gotten would be a good example. Gotten, stop T and syllabic N. So it sounds like got. Don't let that T out, and we just go right to the N. Gotten. It's just tricky here because we have an N before the stop T and the syllabic N. So gotten. I wish I could have gotten to the mountains. Don't wear cotton in the mountains. Okay, yeah, great word. I hope that helped you get that sort of native sound for that word. Wonderful. Let's see what else I missed from earlier questions. we had a question about the word quirky. So we have a quirk and then something being quirky. Let's look at how to pronounce quirky. Letters QU say the qu, the k and w sounds. That's typical for QU. Letters IR in this word just say the vowel, like in bird or turn. K says the k sound and letter Y says E. So you could rewrite that like quirky. She can be kind of quirky. It's a really quirky spelling, etc. Yeah, that's a good word, quirky. Yeah, thank you for that request. And again, for being patient while I answered some of other people's requests as well. Okay, see if there's anything else I missed here. Let's see, mountains, architectural. Okay, we have a question about collaborate and corroborate. Okay, so let's look at how to pronounce collaborate and corroborate. So one thing to think about here with these words is just being careful that you know which is which and which you're intending to use. And the main difference here is with the R and the L, and then also the lab versus the rob. So different vowels in the stress syllable. They're both stressed on the second syllable. So letters CO in both of them will just be a schwa, the k sound. In collaborate, we have the L. Letter A says the A, like in lab or cat. And then OR, collaborate, is not an or. I don't have to do collaborate. It's not stressed. So those letters OR are just going to be the sound. And then the 8 is not stressed in American English, but it does have a clear vowel A. So watch out for that as well. So that will sound like la, or you can think of it as lab. It's easier to help you get that A vowel there. Collaborate. So we need to collaborate on this project. I like to collaborate with my colleagues. Then when we're looking at corroborate, again, letter CO saying the k, unstressed vowel schwa there. Second syllable stress, but now we have an R sound, ra. Letter O says the ah vowel, like in hot or job or rob. Corroborate, again, the rate, same as in collaborate. We have OR saying the sound, and then the 8. So this one, corrob, corroborate. I'll write it the same way. So you can think about it as rate or rate. It doesn't matter because I'm having to go from the that R is just linking the other sounds. So it doesn't really matter where I break those syllables. I think I tend to do rate with more of an but rate is okay as well because it all links together. So corroborate and collaborate. They've been corroborating with the other group. Very good. Okay. Very close words, both a little bit difficult to pronounce. So thank you for that question, and thank you for being here this morning. Okay. We have a question about different pronunciations like data and data. Yes, so this you're using Youglish to see what you hear the most. I would also, for example, if you're trying to choose between data with the a, like had the data, and data with the a, like say data. So two different ways, data and data. look at the other people that you're using this with and what they say. And you'll probably actually just hear a mix. For this one in particular, some people are very insistent on data and others really like data. And there may be some regional differences, so you can listen to people around you in your area, at your job, or in your region. But fortunately, they're both correct and they're both well understood. If you feel like you tend towards using data and then you feel like people can't understand you, you can try switching to data, see if that goes better, if you're better understood. I think the most important part is being understood. The other thing to be aware of in this particular word is that these are the American English pronunciations, and other places in the world and in UK, they're going to say data or data. And here we use a flap for those words. And then your other example was detour. So I'm not sure about the other way to pronounce detour. I pronounce it as detour with an E sound. So D is stressed and then tour with an oor, detour. I misspelled it, detour. So that one, maybe you can tell me what the other way you've heard detour, and maybe I'll recognize it or maybe I won't. The online dictionaries often show more than one pronunciation if there's more than one correct pronunciation, and sometimes they'll show one as the more standard and the one as the less standard. And sometimes the less standard is a more common, but it might be newer, and therefore some people will consider it incorrect. But yeah, going with what you feel most comfortable with, and whatever you can say the most easily where you feel like you're understood. I think focusing on being understood with those words that have multiple pronunciations. I have a lot of videos for words like that here on the channel because people often look them up. And I will get sometimes comments where people feel very strongly one way or the other. I recently had a video about the word coupon, which I say as coupon, but many people also say as coupon. And people, again, have pretty strong opinions about that. Pecan and pecan, lots of words like that. Almond, almond, those are, people have strong opinions about words like that. Okay, I'm not sure if that was helpful for you or not. I hope so. Okay, let's see. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see so many of you here. If you have a question, you're watching this later on, do leave that in a comment because I do follow up with comments to give you as many answers as possible. We have a question about she ended up broke. Do we mix P and B in up broke? So she ended up broke. So what we tend to do here is the P will be unreleased. So I don't do a full P. She ended up broke and then restart. That would make too big of a break there. So as I link the P to the B, the way I do that is I just don't let that P out. So it'll sound like ended up, up. I close my lips for the P and then I just release them on the B of broke. She ended up broke. So for stop consonants, which are P and B, T and D, and then K and G, for all of these sounds, these are called stop consonant sounds. When the next word starts with a consonant, or if we're ending, just saying that word by itself, or ending a sentence on a word that ends with one of these sounds, we typically don't release them. So unreleased stops. Basically, we form the stop. So if I'm saying, for example, stop, even if I'm just saying that word by itself, I don't say stop with a burst of air. I just close my lips for the P and then I don't let it out. Stop, job, walk. Well, walk in that case. By itself, I think I would say the K usually, but if I say walk to, I'm not going to say walk to, walk to. I often will stop that as well. Walk to. We need to walk to town. The dog can go. The dog can go. I don't say dog. It's not good rather than it's not good. or I had time rather than I had time. I have a video talking about unreleased stops here on the channel, as well as this is a topic we cover in our American Accent 6-week course and in our Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com. You can get practice for how to link those stop sounds. But for your question, we basically use an unreleased stop for that P. Yeah, that's a great question. It's a good topic. It comes up a lot in our connected speech and fluent speaking. Okay. Oh yeah, default. Yeah, so default and default. Okay, so for default, one way, right? That's stressing on the D. It makes the E be strong. And then default. This one does actually have a reason. So this one is default with the stress on the fault. This would be the verb. So I hope they don't default on their loans. The default, this would be the noun. The default for that is blah, blah, blah. Or the adjective, the default, the default. So the noun / adjective can either be default or default. The verb can only be default. So sometimes when there's a noun versus a verb pronunciation, another example of that would be address and address. This is the verb, address, second syllable stress. For the verb, I can only use address. I can't say we need to address this. We need to address this. For the noun, I can use either. My address is 100 First Street. My address is 100 First Street. So there are some where the noun and verb have separate pronunciations and they can't be crossed over. And then there are some where they can be crossed over. So that is a little bit confusing. Again, like you said, it's just important to know in terms of usage, if there's only one correct way for either the noun or the verb, then that can be helpful to know about. Okay. We have a question about if the letter T is omitted in the word interrupting. Yes. So again, like in interview or internet, we can say the T. Interrupting, that's correct, and people use it. But with NT, if it's followed by an unstressed syllable, sometimes people will say this more as interrupting. So sorry for interrupting. Sorry for interrupting. Interrupting. Yeah, this T we're definitely going to keep. So you can either use a true T. What you don't want is it doesn't turn into a flap. So not inter. If you use the T, then it has the aspiration, the puff of air, inter. So she's always interrupting me, or she's always interrupting me. I think those are used fairly equally, and so either one is okay. Yeah, good observation. Thank you for being here. Okay, we have a question about Super Duper Bunny League. Yeah, so that's how you pronounce that. We have a question. Yes. Okay. In the word curriculum, curriculum. Yeah, okay. So your question is it curriculum with a rick or curric, or can it be curric? So because the stress is on the rick syllable, curriculum, you can either do curriculum or curriculum, and they're both okay. Basically, you need one R there. And like I was talking about before, the R is going to connect. So in the dictionary, you'll see it with this. probably curric, or because you aren't going to see curric. As I'm saying that R, basically I want it to connect the schwa or the to the ick. So you want uric, but if I have uric, this is just a little heavier on the R. This is a little lighter on the R. And I think that's something that is a regional difference. I personally tend to use the when connecting, but it's not wrong, and plenty of people you will use just a schwa, curriculum. Yeah, both are okay. You want to be just really short and light on that if you're using it, and it can be so light that it's a schwa, because my R, curriculum, the initial R for the starting of the rick syllable is what's important there. That's a good observation. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. Wonderful. So it's been a great class today. Thank you so much for being a part of class and asking questions. We'll continue with the topic of reduced sounds and linking going forward. On Tuesday, what's my new video? We have another podcast video coming up, so check that out, and leave your comments and questions if you're watching this later on as a replay. I do go through those, and they help me to know what direction to take the channel and where to go. Also coming up after class, you'll be directed to our new video for the vowel I, like in live and fill and did. That's on our Pronounce English channel. Our new channel focusing on some of the basics, building blocks of sounds and words for you. This channel is focusing on more connected speech, and of course, lots and lots of videos for all of the different things you need to pronounce English well and feel confident speaking English. Thanks for a great class, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Thanks for being here today.